Hello, and thank you for clicking on this video. So I wanted to ask you, do you get snared by man-made titles and labels? Now, words, there's a lot about words that we could talk about. Um, but this particular video was inspired by some comments on the Easter video by hated without a cause and David. So thank you guys for commenting and sharing and everything. Seriously, that's I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And so I wanted to bring this up because you can check it out. It was the Easter video, maybe what 2 or 3 videos ago. Have you ever read about Easter? I think it was the title. Um, but you know, hated without a cause was brought up. You know, what Easter is a pagan holiday, and was saying that, by saying, "Have you ever read about Easter?" And I was reading about the our Lord's sacrifice and what he was going through, some of it, and I encourage you to really read all of it. But I was trying to keep the video short. Um, that I was, mixing a pagan holiday and all that stuff. And his point was that there's a lot of deception, and there is, and there's a lot about words that are used against us in different ways, but it comes down to being deceived, a lot of deception. That it because our the enemy of, the rulers of darkness and our enemy, they're masters of deception. That's the only tool that they have, because they don't have God's grace. They need to deceive us to use the grace we have from God and our free will against us, really. And so I wanted to bring up, do you get snared by man-made titles and labels? And I've mentioned before, don't get snared by that, but I haven't really gone more in depth on that. And this was a great opportunity to bring it up. So thank you, Hated Without a Cause, and David, talking about, Passover, Easter meaning Passover, and all that. Because to be honest with you, I used to get caught up in that stuff, but I've learned to not get snared by man-made titles and labels. So for an example, hated without a cause, when you're talking about, well, mixing a pagan holiday, you were getting caught up with the titles. And I was trying to say, don't be concerned with the titles. What's important is what's coming from here. What are we doing? What are we celebrating from our heart? You can call it whatever you want. Like, literally, words are physical sounds from our mouth, and then we put a meaning to them. It's not the words really that have the meaning. It's we put the meaning to them. And it comes from who we really are. It's our emotions, our desires, our thoughts, our intentions, the things you don't see is what's eternal. And so you can call it Easter, or, one person can call Easter a pagan holiday, another person can call Easter our Lord's triumph day, basically. And so it really comes down to, how is the person really celebrating it? It's not the label. What I was trying to get across to Hated Without a Cause. Hopefully you're watching this, and I appreciate it, because like I said, it inspired to this video and everything. And please comment below, David, Hated Without a Cause, and anyone else. Please always comment, and because I want an interaction, really. But for one person, it could be a pagan holiday. For another person, it could be our Lord's triumph. Like I was saying, it really depends on the individual, and what are they intending? What are they putting first? That's the main thing. What are they putting first? Like, you can color eggs, you can eat chocolate bunnies, you can do Easter egg hunts, but is that the main focus that you want? Or is it our Lord? for what he did for us. It matters what you put first. And we should always put our Lord first. Because without him, we don't have anything. We don't even exist. So we should always put him first and involve him in all things that we do. Like literally, and I talked about involve him throughout your day. You don't have to say it like audibly. Talk to him in here and in here. Because throughout the day, he already knows what's going on. You don't need to take time to do an up-to-date. But getting back to, man-made labels and titles. So the enemy uses these to cause conflict, to cause division. Now, I know as far as man, we like to put things in groups and so we can quickly try to have some assumptions about those groups. And try to be more, I guess, organized in a way, for lack of better wording. But the enemy uses that to deceive us. So, like, for example, the conversation that Hated Without a Cause, and you can check it out, it's in the comments, and I were having, he was caught up with Easter as a pagan holiday, and so I'm celebrating a pagan holiday, even though I'm talking about our Lord's triumph and his sacrifice. So, and his point is valid. There is so much deception in this world. There is. There really, he's not wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong, Hated Without a Cause. I'm not, and hopefully I conveyed that in the comments. I'm not saying that you're wrong. You're very much right. But don't get caught up in the labels, because then when you say to someone, well, Easter is a pagan holiday, like, don't celebrate Easter, but that person is really putting our Lord first and want to celebrate the triumph he did for us, then you're kind of hindering that, if that makes sense. Making them almost question it, instead of promoting that, being thankful to our Lord. So this is just one kind of example about this. But in general, I want to get back to, like, really just in general, man-made labels and titles, because there's assumptions. There's assumptions made when you say someone identifies with a certain group or has a certain title. Man-made, all man-made. Okay, not the Lord didn't make those. We made those. And then it can cause conflicts and causes negative assumptions. And so I want to bring this to light. So for, the saying at a party, don't talk about religion or politics. Okay. You can be hanging out with someone, have a great time, have a lot in common and enjoying each other's company. And then someone says, well, I'm a Democrat, and you go, oh, well, I'm a Republican. And then all of a sudden, all that camaraderie or whatever that was built, now it's just shattered. Oh, you're one of those, or you're one of those. So, and then that can cause, of course, conflict and everything. If you allow it, that's the thing. That's the thing that I didn't understand most of my life. Like the saying, you made me mad, or that makes me mad. Well, you can be mad, but how you act is up to you. And like I was saying to Hated Without a Cause in the comments, we can agree to disagree. People can agree to disagree. The problem comes in when your ego gets involved and you're not humble, and you think that you can force someone to think the way you think. People are going to think what they think and have to learn their own lessons. Like I said, we're all on our own journeys. We all have our own purpose. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, and we all have our own understandings. And that's a good thing, because we can help. It's an opportunity to help each other out. Okay. But when we put up a wall and think that, oh, if someone doesn't agree with me, then I'm just going to get mad. And the more titles and labels we put, the more different groupings, is literally, by definition, you're separating people and not bringing them together. But we should celebrate different perspectives. We should celebrate different viewpoints. But we tend to try to shoot down those. And in part, at least in part, if not fully, it's fueled by our ego, because they have to be wrong if I'm right. It kind of goes back to competition. Talked about competition. It's almost a competition, you know. And there's an assumption there that, well, if this person is in this group and I don't agree with that group, then they have to be wrong. And if they don't admit they're wrong, then, or they can't be right, or that means I'm wrong. And I think you see where I'm trying to get at there. And so it causes conflict, but you don't have to do that. Okay? You don't have to do that. You have to be true to yourself. Let your light shine. A city on a hill cannot be hid. A candle on a candlestick or stand, or a lamp on a lamp stand. Now I forget the wording. You don't block that. You don't block that light. Is my point. So you have to be truthful and authentic, and that's the good thing. Because when you have a discussion and there's a conflict of viewpoints or whatever, that's where growth can happen if you allow it. Because when things are shaken, let's say when the tree is shaken, what's left is truth, because it doesn't shake. It doesn't exist only based on your belief. Like, it exists on its own. Illusions go away if no one believes them. Lies go away if no one believes them, if they're not truth. So that's a good thing to have a discussion. And so, anyways, I want to thank you, David, and Hated Without a Cause, for your comments, because that's what I really want with these videos, is to get interaction. Because again, we're all on our own journey, and I've learned a lot, and I need to share it, but I don't know everything. And so discussions, like I said, once there's a conflict and things, or there's vibrations, there's a shake there. What will be left, hopefully, is truth. And this is important, this is the most important, if you put truth first. If your desire first is for truth, more than feeling good, more than your ego, more than being right, more than all that stuff, you got to put truth first. And truth is God. That's why we got to put God first. And that's why you got to involve God. Okay, you got to keep focused on Him and stay humble that He is the all-knowing. We are not the all-knowing. Okay, we're trying to learn. And I think I've kind of gotten off on a tangent here. But my question originally is, do you get snared by man-made titles and labels? Because, like, do you close yourself off to listening to people because they have a certain label or group? Like, that's when it really hurts you, because you can't grow. And again, I think it's fueled, at least in part, by ego, because you have to be right. And if you're not right, then you're wrong, is kind of the thinking. And if something that conflicts with your viewpoints or whatever, if you have to say that's right, then that means you're wrong, which we don't like to admit because of our ego. So that's why we have to humble ourselves. And to do that, to help remind us, you involve God, because you realize that He knows all, we don't. Hopefully I'm making some connections here, not confusing people. But so that's why I learned, almost 3 years ago, over 2.5 years ago, don't get snared by those man-made titles and labels, because like on my journey of truth, and I'm going to try to wrap this up here, okay? But on my journey of truth, that has really been about almost a quarter of a century, okay? There's been many rabbit holes, okay? And you can say at one point, too, there was a lot of conspiracy theories I went down. I was reading laws, like literally like laws, off the Library of Congress website and stuff like that. I mean, there's a way, there's way too many to go into right now. But one of the things I would get snared by is labels and man-made titles, and kind of putting the word in place of what it really is. Like, I had it backwards. That's what I was trying to say. I mentioned this in the beginning of the video in a way. You know, it's us that gives the physical sound, whatever word, the meaning. It's not the word that gives meaning. Does that make sense? And when you think it's a word, and then so you have certain feelings and images and stuff associated with that word, and then so you have certain conclusions and certain reactions to that word. It's just the word. You have to look more of in here. What's the intention? Like, it's hard to convey this in a way, because I know it took me a long time to really see it. But what's important is, what is the meaning that the person's given to it? And maybe the person has a label or title that they don't really identify with. So don't get snared by man-made titles and labels, because by definition they separate. And if you think that well, first of all, right and wrong is really subjective. Like I've mentioned before, you can't use man's standard, because depending on who you talk to, right and wrong will change. That's why you have to focus on the Lord and use his standard. And to do that, you need to involve him and know him. Okay? Because only he is good. I'm sorry to bust your bubble if you think you're good, but none of us are good. None of us have come from a place of love in every moment of our lives. We've gone against that at some points. And it's really a daily struggle. It's really a daily struggle. But this is so important, because you can waste so much time and energy and create your own deception to yourself if you get snared by just man-made labels and titles. Keep in mind, they're man-made. And to really not allow that to be your world, you have to look to God and keep focused on God and involve him, because he is truth. And he will shake your world so the illusions and lies will disappear, because they don't have substance. They're not real. They only exist because you're believing them. And then what's left is truth. Now that's painful. That process is painful. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. I'm going to wrap it up here. But hopefully, and please comment below if I wasn't clear in this. I know there's a lot to this, though. There's a lot to this. And thank you again, David, because David's example is perfect. Don't get caught up in titles and man-made titles and labels. Like the word Easter, like Hated Without a Cause was caught up. Easter is a pagan holiday, and then don't celebrate it. And David was saying, Easter means Passover, and so yes, celebrate it. And my whole point is, it doesn't matter what you call it. It matters what you're doing in here. Like, what are you really celebrating? What are you putting first? That's the main thing. You got to always put our Lord first, because he is the great I am that I am. Like, he is. So, and if it's not of God, it is not. It goes beyond our physical worldly thinking, really. But I thank you both you guys, definitely. And hopefully in my comments I conveyed that I welcome comments and discussions. That's what I really want. So thank you. And if you guys are watching, please comment below your thoughts and stuff. But hopefully I'm clarifying, really adding on, because you can type things, but like the feeling and all that stuff is lost when you're not like face to face and that sort of thing. So hopefully I conveyed a little bit more of what I meant by don't get snared by man-made labels and titles and labels. And If you're not hated without a cause, or David, of course, please share your thoughts and comments below about this, okay, and about what I've said. Do you agree? Do you not agree? What all that stuff, okay? And if you like the video, please thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Ring-a-ding-a-ling that bell to have to be notified when I upload videos. And as always, stay strong. This journey is not easy. That narrow path is not easy, but it is temporary, and the gifts are eternal. So just keep that in mind. I have to remind myself constantly about that. But stay strong, and God bless.